1 Thessalonians 2, Paul was gentle among them, like a mother caring for her own children. This chapter is deeply personal, where Paul explains his conduct and motive for his ministry while he was with the Thessalonians. He reminds them of the hardships he faced, his dedication to the truth, his care and concern for the Thessalonian believers. He says that they had received the gospel, not as human words, but as it actually is, the Word of God. Exegesis by sections and verses. Verses 1 to 2, Paul's ministry in Thessalonica. Paul reflects on his treatment of the Thessalonians, stating that his time with them was not in vain, despite the opposition and persecution he faced. He emphasized his courage in spreading the gospel, despite the suffering they had previously experienced in Philippi. Verses 3 to 6, Paul defends his motives and conduct. He affirms that his teachings were not misleading, impure, or deceitful, but he was approved by God to be entrusted with the gospel. Paul explains that he wasn't seeking human praise or approval but only God's. Verses 7 to 9, Paul's gentle and self-sacrificing love. Despite his rights as an apostle, Paul didn't burden the Thessalonians. Instead, he was gentle among them, like a mother caring for her own children. Paul describes his self-sacrificing love for the Thessalonians, not only sharing the gospel, but also his own life, while working to support himself, avoiding being a financial burden to them. Verses 10 to 12, Paul's conduct and exhortation. Paul reminds them of his upright, holy, and blameless behavior among them. He treated each one as a father treats his own children, encouraging, comforting, and urging them to live lives worthy of God, who calls them into his kingdom and glory. Verses 13 to 16, reception of the word, but also Jewish opposition. Paul thanks God that when the Thessalonians received the word of God, they accepted it, not as human words, but as it truly is, the word of God. He then explains how the Jewish leaders had opposed him. Paul said that they are incurring God's wrath upon themselves to the utmost. Verses 17 to 20, Paul's longing to see the Thessalonians again. Paul expresses his strong desire to visit the Thessalonians again, which has been hindered by Satan. He refers to the Thessalonians as his hope, joy, and crown of boasting before Jesus at his coming, reflecting his spiritual investment in them. Overall summary, 1 Thessalonians chapter 2 is a deeply personal reflection by Paul on his ministry to the Thessalonians. He defends his motives and conduct, reminding them of his sincere, self-sacrificing, and gentle care for them, his upright behavior, and the opposition he faced by the Jews. He also thanks God for their reception of the gospel as the Word of God and expresses his longing to see them again. It provides a model of leadership marked by integrity, love, and a selfless approach to sharing the gospel.